after reading this chapter of My Hero Academia, I think many are going to notice the parallel of this final page of the chapter in comparison to chapter 89 of My Hero Academia that shows All Might versus All for One. The whole structure of both pages looks pretty much identical. Hopefully, Endeavor doesn't go in to actually try to punch Shigaraki, or the man's just straight up dead at the start. But regardless, the panels are very, very similar, and it pretty much means that Horikoshi is trying to send a message here, is that this is a defining moment of the story. For instance, this is going to define Shigaraki's level of power. Will he truly become like the next Lord of Evil? Will he truly change society and it'll never come back from this? That's pretty much what the comparison of these parallels really represent, but there is definitely more. There is a very big distinct difference, and that is Endeavor is not All Might. Now, I know many are going to say, obviously, it's a different person, but that's not what I mean. We got to think about the core themes of what My Hero Academia has been building up for a very long time now, ever since All Might had to step down as symbol of peace. When Endeavor took the #1 spot, when he finally basically became the very thing he wanted, but he realized that he didn't get it the way he wanted, and he's went through so much character development, he pretty much realized he would never become All Might. He would never become the man that he wanted to surpass. He would never reach that level of strength, that level of fame, that level to be able to change the world and make it a better place in some people's eyes. Endeavor realized this, and this has been a core theme building up for a very long time, is that even though Endeavor has had a lot of parallels with All Might, he is not the symbol of peace. He is not someone that can replace All Might, and that is why so many heroes have been recruited, why it's more about quantity than quality, more people coming in basically to be able to fill in the shoes of All Might. And that's the thing here, is that Endeavor was one of the very few people that were trying to do that, and that is why Hawks was such a big fan of Endeavor, is because Endeavor was the only man really trying to surpass All Might, build a bridge to him to be able to stand in his place as well. But obviously, that did not happen. Endeavor was not able to achieve that goal no matter what. So when we look at the core theme of what the two pages mean, it pretty much means is that Endeavor is not All Might in terms of what he represents, which is obvious, but it has so much more meaning when you really dive into it. And that point is that we gotta think about what Shigaraki wants, what he's trying to tear down, but also what All Might, actually did, what he represented in that fight against All for One. All Might, he is someone that has built a world of peace. He has made it to where the crime rate has dropped and plummeted. The statistics were there. It's been mentioned within the story. Basically, it's been a better world. However, despite all of this, with the world being shiny and all that, there was some dark dregs underneath everything that's been hidden, that has been building up and kind of getting more and more, I guess, toxic. It just seeps to the surface, and that's pretty much what Shigaraki's entire group represents, is that it is this toxic part of the society that All Might created with this idealistic, viewpoints. Now, the point, though, is that All Might standing in front of All for One, he was able to bring him down because he was All Might. He was someone that was above the normal hero. He was someone so strong, such a symbol, that he was able to bring down the very evil by himself. But it's clear as day that Endeavor is not up to the capabilities of doing so, because he is not as strong as All Might. So the significance of the differences here is that Endeavor is not All Might. He cannot pull a hat out of his butt to be able to win, because he isn't as much of a symbol. He is not able to bring joy and smile to people like All Might was. So Endeavor inevitably is probably going to fall within this fight, or something very bad is going to happen to him, which I'll elaborate more on in this video. But let's talk about what Shigaraki is doing and the significance of him having the very same angle as All for One did against All Might. Now, obviously, we know Shigaraki, he has, ascended to having now All for One, but it's so much more than that. The reason why Shigaraki standing there is so meaningful is because he is now ushering in a new era. He is ushering in a whole new world that nobody has seen. For instance, when you think about what All for One did against All Might, he pretty much put the final nail in the coffin on All Might. He pretty much finally made him have to step down and pretty much make way for new heroes, step down for a whole new world, and no longer All Might could hold up that society that he's built for so long. Now it comes crashing down. What Shigaraki is doing here, he is now fundamentally dismantling the world that All Might created, but on top of that, he is creating a new world because of dismantling All Might's idealistic world. And this pretty much is a callback a very long time ago to when Shigaraki got his conviction, when he actually confronted Izuku and talked to him about what is the difference between him and Stain. What makes them so different? Why is people rallying behind Stain, talking about him, when pretty much Shigaraki is the exact same? He's causing destruction, there's bloodlust, etc. What is really the difference? And that entire chapter is even referenced within this chapter by Horikoshi himself, showing that Izuku recognized what quirk was going throughout the city. It was from Shigaraki. So obviously, I wanted to go back and read that chapter to see the significance, and pretty much the chapter is a really good read. It really reminds you of a lot of things that you might have forgotten, and one of the things that I noticed that I think many are not going to recognize or be like, whoa, I didn't realize that, is that Ochiko was in that chapter with Izuku and Shigaraki. Ochiko literally confronted, okay, straight up confronted Shigaraki. And when you think about it, Shigaraki with his current state, his level of strength now, Ochiko is on the chopping block when you really think about it. So it's kind of scary to think about that he knows how important Ochiko is to Izuku. So that really brings up the matter that Ochiko is definitely in danger when you think about the current state of affairs going on within this chapter and this arc. But okay, the point is, getting back on topic, that chapter I read from the past, it talks about how Shigaraki, he learned his conviction and he wants to destroy All Might's world to create a whole new world. So creation and destruction, which has been building up for a very long time now after the Redestro arc and even beforehand, and this chapter signifies he has begun that. The world is now being recreated. So because of this, I truly doubt that Shigaraki will fall. There's just really no way at this point that Shigaraki is going to just tuck tail and run. He's at that point now, he no longer needs to stay in the shadows. He doesn't need to hide no longer. He can fully walk out amongst the people and do what he must do to achieve the goal he wants. And that's the whole reason why he summons Gigan to pop up and start fighting, is because they don't need to hide no more. They can come out in the open. Society no longer can turn their head away from the darkness and act like the heroes are going to save the day. It's not going to be that easy. Shigaraki has exposed the fragile nature of the world All Might created. So I think it's interesting, the positions, the ideals, the parallels, the symbolism. It's just a really good final page of the chapter, and I just think that Horikoshi really did go in showing the significance of Endeavor's position, but also Shigaraki's. Now, speaking of Endeavor, okay, I know many want me to talk about the whole destruction and all of that, but I need to talk about Endeavor because it's a really critical part for this. See, since I've already talked about how Endeavor is not All Might, this leads into something else. What if Endeavor is what would have happened if All Might wasn't All Might? For instance, if All Might wasn't All Might, so important, All Might technically would have died. So when you think about it, Endeavor might bite the bullet in this upcoming chapters. He potentially might fall, and not just fall as in have to step down as a hero, but fall as in terms he's gone. Like, his quirk probably stolen, and he's gone. And it would hold so much significance if, for instance, his quirk is stolen, and you see Shigaraki just parade Endeavor's quirk here and there, and you see Todoroki in the distance see it. Imagine what it would do to society if, Shigaraki stole Endeavor's quirk like that, and it just ended the man right then and there. Nobody would necessarily feel safe. So that is the part about this that makes it very interesting, is that Endeavor most likely is going to be the opposite of what happened with All Might and All for One. Endeavor is probably going to lose. The only thing that Endeavor really has on Shigaraki at this point is knowledge and experience, which, when you think about it, it's not going to really hold up that much, though, because of just how many quirks that Shigaraki has. He's not as old as All for One. He is able to perform and use his abilities. The only thing that's really going to hold back Shigaraki is just how he can get a handle of all of his quirks that has now been pretty much presented to him. You know, what can he really do now? But his weakness of basically being attacked from a distance is no longer there, because now with him potentially even stealing Exelus's quirk, which allows him to shoot lasers from his eyes, Shigaraki, you know, he can close in the gap. You know, just because you stay from a distance from him and you avoid his decay doesn't mean that you can avoid his other quirks at his disposal. So Endeavor does not have an advantage whatsoever. There is a major disadvantage for Endeavor, in fact, because Endeavor, we know he overheats very quickly. When he uses his fire, he starts to overheat, and he has technically been fighting quite a bit in this arc already. So we know for a fact, because of all of this, he's probably already kind of starting to overheat. He can't really hold back much, and now against Shigaraki, he doesn't necessarily need to hold back, because, I mean, there's literally nothing there around him. So he doesn't need to hold back his flame, but in turn, it's not probably going to be enough for obvious reasons. I mean, Shigaraki is the main villain of the story, but just Endeavor can't do it, because anything that he does at Shigaraki can just be able to completely disable. And it's not just, you know, Shigaraki having multiple quirks, it's the fact that we have seen him himself even demolish Redestro's, you know, stress, you know, attack that he used a long time ago. We even saw Shigaraki grab his, like, ethereal blast and just disintegrate it. So it's not just, like, destroying, let's say, buildings and air, like, you know, buildings or ground, etc. You know, it's also about the attacks. And so it's very possible that Shigaraki could potentially destroy the very fire that Endeavor throws at him. So even then, let's just say Shigaraki doesn't use ranged techniques, he still potentially could fight back against Endeavor. So it's just all around scary to think about. So yeah, Endeavor is in bad shape. He's probably going to die. I don't want it, but it's very likely. Like, it's very, very likely. The only way he's going to survive this is if that 75%, you know, pops in some way or another. But with Gigan popping up, Gigan himself probably can just wipe out Endeavor by himself. So that's the scary part about all of this. So okay, let's back up now. Let's talk about some more things that is very fascinating that kind of send a message. And that is the first page of this chapter with Izuku confronting Shigaraki's decay. This, I think, is actually very symbolic, and I don't know how many kind of caught this. There are probably some out there, but the point is that when you see Izuku confront Shigaraki's decay, he kicks, and the kick is powerful. It knocks it back for a brief moment. It stops it. But then the decay starts sweeping on through, and it does not stop after Izuku's kick with One For All. I think this is very significant to pretty much show just how strong Shigaraki is in comparison to Izuku. But on top of that, it shows that just the power of One For All might not even be enough to stop the monster that is Shigaraki, because literally you have decay just sweeping on through after everything that, you know, One For All is capable of. It's not even able to stop that sheer destruction that Shigaraki is capable of. So I really do think that it's symbolic to see just that entire panel with Izuku. Now, another thing too is Todoroki. He can't stop decay as well. He can pump his ice out and all that and do what he wants, but it still doesn't stop the decay from going straight through his ice barrier, demolishing and all that. Even if you have large AoE attacks to make walls, it really doesn't put much of a dent in what Shigaraki is capable of. So that's just even more scary to think about, which gets into the actual quirk decay, which I think Horikoshi definitely needs to dive into some more because of just how everything has been building up in recent chapters. So Shigaraki obviously has confirmed in this chapter that he can grab things with all 5 fingers without destroying it. He can literally decide what he decays and what he does not. So this confirms what I was talking about in my previous chapter review. Like, for instance, if a group of friends were around him, could he not destroy them? Like, could he control himself and not commit friendly fire? Clearly, he can. So that makes him already scary to even more scary, because he can be a large AoE damaging, like, quirk user, and nobody can stop him, because if his friends are in a fight, he just puts his hand on the ground and everyone can get destroyed besides his friends. He can literally stop them from being destroyed. That is absolutely scary. But it extends even more so than that. With him being able to put all 5 fingers on people now, it pretty much means he can steal quirks, which makes sense. I mean, that's pretty much what, you know, All For One has been about. You know, you gotta put all your hand on them to kind of snatch their quirk. So he needs his hands to do that, so now having control of it makes sense. So this leads to the point to where there needs to be limitations. Like, Shigaraki needs limitations on his decay at the very least. Even if it's not on All For One, he needs limitations on decay. Because what he's currently capable of is just ridiculous. Because, like, Izuku can't stop him, Endeavor can't stop him, none of the heroes can stop him. I don't even think All Might could be able to stop Shigaraki at this point. That is just how strong he is. I know many were saying they doubted Prime All Might would, fall against Shigaraki, and they're probably, All Might might come out on top. But it doesn't change the fact, though, of what he's currently capable of. That is probably one of the scariest things to fight, because you can't get up and close and personal to the man, which is something that All Might's kind of known for. So that kind of negates, like, fist fights with the man. You can't really do that. So the only way to kind of deactivate that quirk is literally if he did not have that quirk, or if he has, like I said, a repercussion, which I think is definitely going to come into play. Like, he needs a radius. He definitely needs a radius with his quirk, because we see how he's able to just demolish cities like it's nothing. I do wonder if there is an actual radius, like it can only go as large as a city. Is it like country level? Is it world level? Because what stops him from putting his hand on the entire ground and just destroying the entire planet? See my point? So there needs to be a limit there. There has to be a limit. And if not a limit to that, there needs to be a limit in terms of, like, his health. Maybe, he slowly decays himself if he keeps using that quirk. Now, that would be an interesting twist, which could go along with his whole scratching and, the face, how he has, like, cracks on his lips and stuff. It definitely could be something like that. Maybe his quirk is tied into that. We'll see. But, okay, point is that his quirk needs weaknesses. It's so strong, he's got all for one, so he can definitely have weaknesses thrown on to his destruction. Enough said. But okay, let's talk about everything else. So, when it comes to the whole scene switching over to the mansion, we get to see Toga. And Toga is in such a frantic state that it's honestly sad. I feel bad for her for a lot of reasons, because Toga lost basically a family member. And Twice was very kind to her, she was very kind to him. And it's clear now, like, if you still do not believe that Toga cared about Twice, this chapter fundamentally makes it very clear that Toga really loved Twice. She cared about him deeply. And with how affected she is, how she's so upset going on a rampage, just shows how much she does care. And that's sad. It's just super sad to see her kind of all messed up and sad like she is. But at the same time, she is kind of unredeemable because, like, what she has done, too. It's just, like, I feel bad for her. I understand why she's going on her rampage, because she has lost a close loved one, and now she's just venting. She really just wants to see the world that has been built up like it is right now just come undone, which is what Shigaraki is currently doing. Which, by the way, that leads over into the whole Mr. Compress and Dabi scene, which it's very clear Dabi is just such a scumbag. Like, the man legitimately didn't even say to Mr. Compress he knew that Twice was dead. He didn't say anything. Didn't even comment or anything. He just straight up was like, like he just sat there and all that, and he's just like, you want to get out of here? It's just like, it's clear as day that he really did not care about anyone in the League of Villains at all. And it's just like, it's sad, honestly. It's really, really sad, because, like, Twice really cared about all of them. He died for all of them, technically. So just like, wow, like, how heartless can you really be? And, like, even Mr. Compress is obviously very upset, but he's also worried about Toga because he doesn't want to lose another family member on top of what he already just lost. However, it's very clear that Gagon is going to come in and save them because Shigaraki called them over. So he's pretty much going to grab all of them, drag them over, and most likely, in turn, he's going to grab Twice's body, which this leads into something to talk about. So, we know Twice is dead. However, we do know that technically the dead can slightly come back to life through Nomu. So, with how Shigaraki has all for one, it's possible Twice might be turned into a Nomu of some shape or form to come back. He might not be the same person, but he'll be a very distorted difference than what he once was, which be interesting. I could definitely see Shigaraki being even more so angry than he already was, like having real anger because of just a close family member being gone. Like, I can definitely see it, and seeing the state of Toga as well, it's probably going to hurt him, because Shigaraki, as I've been saying, he's not heartless, so he's gonna definitely be very upset when he sees Twice just straight up pretty much dead, like if Gagon grabs him. So, yeah, okay, so speaking of the mansion, the heroes, etc. that are there, I wonder exactly what's gonna happen. Like, for instance, is Gigan gonna grab all of the villains there? Is he only gonna grab the top officials? Like, for instance, is he only gonna grab, like, Dobby, Mr. Compress, Twice His Body, Toga? Or is he gonna grab, let's say, Redestro as well and all the other top officials? You know, is Gigan gonna do that? Or is he gonna wipe out all of the heroes there and then lead them away? There's so many questions I have about that, but, the point is that Gigan is definitely going to be a tide changer, is that the mansion's about to get really bad. Like, Gigan really can't be stopped. When he gets started, you can't really stop the man, and I think that there's probably going to be a lot of hero deaths in the upcoming chapters on the mansion side, and thankfully, at the very least, Hawks did get out with Tokoyami, which that is something that was confirmed in this chapter, is that even though the city is kind of like getting destroyed, you have it to where Tokoyami is flying Hawks to like a medical bay beyond the front lines, so this means that Hawks will get treatment, but as I've already said, that Hawks most likely is never going to be able to fly again. His back was burnt so bad, he's not going to be able to fly, which pretty much means that he's going to be a teacher type character, very much so like Mirako, which actually is a perfect segue to talk about it. I know many are probably wondering, where did Mirako go? Endeavor was holding Mirako. Where'd she go? Well, it's very obvious. Endeavor was obviously flying right behind Ryukyu in the previous chapter, so it's very likely while Ryukyu was in the air, like, surveying what was going on, and Endeavor was looking back at what was going on, he probably put, you know, Mirako on top of Ryukyu to take her to, you know, get to, medical attention, while Endeavor decided to use the force of being up in the sky to launch himself straight down with gravity towards Shigaraki. That's most likely what actually happened. So Mirako is safe. Ryukyu's safe. It just, Endeavor now, he's probably not going to get out of this, because once he overheats, it's done. Oh yeah, so I kind of forgot to talk about this, and I finished the video, and I was like, wait a minute, I need to talk about this, because it's also very important. The whole scene with Shigaraki discovering that the bullets that he had the good doctor trying to recreate was pretty much mostly destroyed, says a lot about Shigaraki's character development. For instance, he grabs one of the bullets, he's like, they're mostly destroyed. Overhaul would be very upset. He doesn't say he's upset, he says Overhaul would be upset. And when you think about the meaning of that, it pretty much means that Shigaraki doesn't really need the quirk erasing bullets anymore, because he has the next best thing. He has the ability to straight up just steal people's quirks and incorporate them into his self. So technically, nobody really needs those erasing quirk bullets anymore, because he could just do it himself. So that's the point here, is that the bullets are kind of like useless at this point. He doesn't really need them much anymore. Some of them did survive though, so they're not necessarily gone from the plot, but they are technically irrelevant in comparison to what Shigaraki has become. But that's kind of a message to where he's like, he used Overhaul like a stepping stone, and Overhaul, you know, is just irrelevant. Like, oh, he moved on, and, you know, what Overhaul wanted, it might still be accomplished, but not in the way he actually thought it was going to. There's really not much left to really talk about. It's a good chapter. It really goes to show, though, that, Shigaraki really kept true to his ideals, his convictions since the very beginning. He has wanted to destroy and recreate the world, and that is what is currently going on. So yeah, I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.